So the thing I've come to realize in life, and then maybe I can help you guys realize in life, or help you walk through in life, because I've dealt with it the hard way myself. I've dealt with it firsthand myself. Is that sometimes you will always be that person that they follow, harass, call cops on, watch, the guy that they deal with on a different basis, the guy that they try to beat down, the guy that they try to fight, the guy that they call dirty or nasty or ugly, or you're dating that guy. I've heard that one. Or you'll always be the guy that people look down on. If you had the money they had, or you had the family they had, or you had something that they had, and then you wouldn't be that way. But that's the way that people are nowadays, and you can't help that. Sometimes you just gotta fall into the role that you're given. And all my life I've been that guy that when he gets introduced to his girlfriend or his wife's father, or his girlfriend's mother, or whatever, that their family's like, ew, you're dating that guy, or you could do better than him. Or I've always been that guy, that they look down on. And I've always had people talk shit to me and try to talk down to me and stuff, and I've learned to just kind of look over it. And the thing about it is, you got to realize that some of these people, they live in a bubble world. They're raised in a bubble world, you know what I mean? Their mama and daddy raised them on a farm or something. The biggest problem they had to deal with is maybe their daddy beating up on their mama or something like that. But they never had to really struggle, and they never really had to go through anything. They wouldn't know what to do in your situation, or they wouldn't know what to do if they had to deal with one of the struggles that you've had to deal with your whole life. Just one of them. If they had to deal with that, their whole life would be destroyed. Some people, they live in a fantasy world, you know what I mean? Their mama and daddy raised them in a fantasy world. They grow up and they think that everything's a fantasy world around them, and that they should be a fantasy world around them. And that's why a lot of people don't understand homeless people, is because they think that, oh, why is that person living like that? How can that person sleep on the street like that? How can that person eat out of trash? How can that person do this? How can that person do that? Or that's some of the reasons that when you ever dated a girl or a guy, and then their family's like, ew, why would you date that person, or whatever it is, because they've lived in a fantasy world and you don't fit that fantasy world. And you got to realize that about people. There are a lot of people, they're raised in fantasy worlds, and they live in fantasy worlds, and their whole world has been a fantasy, and anything that's outside of that fantasy, they're going to look down on. So sometimes you just got to accept the role that you're given in life, like fantasy roles. The fantasy role of, ew, why would you date that guy, or whatever. You just got to adopt that, you know what I mean? Like, I have people, they think, oh yeah, he was in gangs, he's a bad person. No, that was how I was raised. So that's not who I am as a person. That's not how I want to be. That's not the person I want to be. And that's not the person I chose to be. But that's the person that they see, and that's the person that they look down on. And I get it. They live in their fantasy world, and in their fantasy world, anybody who lives that lifestyle or has lived that lifestyle must be a meth head, must be a drug addict, must be a bad person. They don't get it that some people was raised in that lifestyle, and some people had to overcome it and had to teach themselves how not to be in that situation or be in that lifestyle. Some people, they've never done a drug in their life. They've never, I never did hard drugs. I smoked weed, but I mean, some people, they've never done drugs and stuff, so they don't understand drug addicts and stuff. And I get that. That's why some of the best drug counselors are ex-drug addicts, because they understand those people. You know what I mean? That's why some of the people that live in nice houses and stuff, up in the middle of nowhere, or in a mansion or a 3-bedroom house that their mama and daddy's owned, and they got a mama and daddy. They don't understand people that never had a mama or a daddy. They don't understand the people that never lived in a house like that and they've always been on the streets. They don't understand people that run the streets, because they've never had to run the streets. They've never had to sleep on the streets. They've always had mama and daddy. They have always had both. You know what I mean? They've always been raised in a good situation. So anytime they see anybody in a bad situation, of course they're going to talk down on you. Of course they're going to look down on you, because they don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, My mom was an alcoholic when I was a kid. I understand people that go through that. You know what I mean? Like, some people will not understand that, and they'll look down on you and they'll talk down on you, and you'll always be down in their eyes because of that. You know what I mean? But that's because they've never had to deal with that struggle. So that's the thing about it. If people have never had to deal with that kind of struggle, they're not going to understand you. You can't expect them to understand you. You know what I mean? Like, they're just going to base it off of what they understand. Their understanding is what is messed up. You're not messed up as a person. You know what I mean? Everybody has different struggles. Maybe their struggle was different, but they had struggles. Maybe their struggles was their mama and daddy always fought, but they never showed them about it. You know what I mean? Some of these people, they got perfect little family and shit, but their perfect little family is based off of their mama and daddy lying to each other and pretending that they love each other just to make the family look good. You know what I mean? Or some of these people, they've been handed properties throughout their generation, or throughout from their mom and dad. They've been handed a property and stuff. They've never had to be homeless. They've never had to worry about sleeping on the streets. So you gotta realize that all it is a misunderstanding of different people. Some people, they've never had to understand the situation that you're in. They've never had to understand the struggles that you've gone through. So of course they're gonna talk down on you. Of course they're gonna look down on you. Some of these people, they got poodles. You know what I mean? They got poodles for dogs, or they got these little show dogs and stuff, and they don't wrestle with their dogs. They don't play rough with their dogs. So if you play rough with your dog, you're gonna look funny to them. Like yesterday, I was making a video, and I jumped out of my car and started playing with my dog and making the video, and two of the guys that were talking, they gave me a dirty look, and they started looking at me like I was beating my dog or something. Like, me and my dog play rough. My dog bites me. Yes, he does. My dog is allowed to bite me. I allow him to bite me, because that teaches him that nobody's allowed to hit him, and if they do hit him, he's allowed to bite him. That's what that teaches my dog, and that's the way I raise my dog. You know what I mean? And not everybody's gonna understand that, because some people, if their dog tried to bite them, they would freak the fuck out. They'd probably take them and go put them down. You know what I mean? Put them to sleep. I would never do that. You know what I mean? And some people, they've never had to deal with 3 dogs in one little tiny car. They got a big ass box van and stuff, and they go around making YouTube videos, and they got this big ass box van, and they got a lot of space. And if their dog gets sick, they call their mama and daddy, and their mama and daddy sends them money, or their mama and daddy takes the dog to the vet, or they got the perfect little life where they got money back up so they could go take their dog to a vet, or their dog don't get sick like that, and then they never had to deal with that. You know what I mean? Like, my dog has been sick for 3 years, and I've been taking her to the vet and spent over $3,000 on her. You know what I mean? And like, I don't have that kind of money, but hey, I've taken it out of my own pocket, and I've struggled and gone without meals and stuff just to make sure my dog goes to the vet and stuff, and she gets taken care of. You know, and she's still sick, and they still haven't did everything for her. You know what I mean? They haven't did anything for her, really. And some people will never understand that, because if they took their dog to the vet and the vet didn't do anything for her, they'd probably sue the vet or something. Or they would call and be a Karen and throw a big temper tantrum, and the vet would see their dog again and probably make it better. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't done all that. I've taken them to 2-3 different vets, and I've had to pay different bills, and I've had to deal with different struggles that people would never be able to deal with in their life. I've had to go without meals so my dogs could eat. I had to go without meals so my brothers and sisters could eat. I've had to run away from foster homes and live on the streets so I could watch over my brothers and sisters and make sure my mom didn't beat them to death. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that I've dealt with that other people would not deal with, and I don't expect them to understand. And I know I'll always be that ill, you're dating that guy, or that guy that everybody's got to always watch, or everybody always doubts, or everybody always looks down on. I know that, and I accept that. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's the thing about life. You just got to accept the role you're given in life. You got to accept the way that people treat you in life, and the way that people do you in life. And you just got to run with it. You know what I mean? Like, people, I see them watching me, I see them looking down on me, I see them talking down on me, and the thing about it is, I just ignore them. You know what I mean? I overlook it like I never seen it, and they're like, oh, he's so stupid because he didn't even catch on that I was talking shit about him. No, I caught on, I just didn't care. You know what I mean? And that's the thing about it is, sometimes you just got to not give a damn. Like, if I'm that guy, I'm that guy. Oh well. Well, I don't care. That don't make me that guy. You know what I mean? Don't mean that you have to go out and be that guy. The guy that they always watch, that they always think is doing something wrong. Don't mean that you have to always be doing something wrong just because people put you in that position and make it seem like you're always doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way they see you. The way that someone else sees you, you don't have to be that person. You don't have to fall into that role. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of kids, they deal with one mama or one daddy, other kids with both mama and daddy, they look down on them like, oh my God, your mom struggles or your dad struggles, and your mom does this or your mom does that or your dad does this or your dad does that. I have a mama and daddy and they're perfect and they treat me good. You know what I mean? And you don't gotta fall into that role of, okay, they're better than me. Just let them think they're better than you. Let it go right over your head. You know what I mean? Like, you never caught on to what they were doing or what they were saying. If someone's trying to be a bully, that's their way of being a bully. You know what I mean? And they're weak for doing that, for treating you that way, for treating you some sort of way just because they got something you don't got, or because they've had opportunities in life that you never had. That's because they're weak. They've never had to experience that thing. Going through experiences, going through struggles teaches you to be a better person, teaches you to be a stronger person. And people are scared of that, you know what I mean? And that's why they talk down on you, and that's why they look down on you, and that's why they try to make you seem like you're not shit and that they're better than you, because they've never had to go through the struggles that you've had to go through. They've never created those strengths in their life that you've had to create. And I've had to learn that in life, you know what I mean? And I've had to learn that a lot in life. Because like a lot of these, when I was in gangs, a lot of the gang members, they would act like they were harder than me, tougher than me, did more dirt, did this, did that. And they probably did. They were probably in and out of jail a lot more than me. And they probably did go through a lot more than me. But in reality, in the reality of things, I had to deal with struggles that they never had to deal with, like my house being raided when I was a kid, or multiple times, you know what I mean, or getting shot up multiple times, or I've had to deal with things that they've never had to deal with. An alcoholic mom, a drug addict mom, a dad that was in jail for killing a cop, being bounced around house to house, you know, all that, foster home to foster home, over 20 foster homes, all that I've had to deal with, and they never had to deal with that. And they had a perfect mama and daddy, they had a perfect family, or they had one little tiny struggle and they decided to go join a gang and try to be a tough guy, you know what I mean? Some of these kids, I watched it firsthand. Some of these people, they go to church all their life, they've had a church life, they had a good mama and daddy, and then they come out here to the streets and they go through one struggle, and now they're a gang member and they're running the streets and they're doing drugs and they're doing all this and that. And it's like, yeah, but I've had to deal with all that my whole life, and I've never had to do drugs. And I got myself out of gangs. I didn't put myself in gangs. I got put in gangs because I needed protection from my stepdad's whooping on me and trying to take over my house and whooping on my brothers and sisters. That's why I got into gangs. Some of these cats, they get out of church and they hang out with the wrong people, and now they're in a gang. I've never hung out with the wrong people and just got put in a gang because I hung out with the wrong people. If anything, I hung out with the OGs, the older cats that didn't want to hang out with the youngsters because they were knuckleheads. I've hung out with those ones, and they actually told me to stay out of that, you know what I mean? And they've actually tried to help me get out of that, and they've actually put knowledge in my head that some of you younger cats never got put in your head because you were too busy trying to prove yourself to them, you know what I mean? I've never had to prove myself to the older cats that were in gangs and stuff. I've never had to prove myself to anybody, you know what I mean? I've always just tried to prove myself to myself. And some of you get out here and you do evil shit and you try to prove yourself to somebody, and that's the difference, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's got their own struggles, that's what I'm saying, and you can't let nobody tell you who you are or project how they feel about you onto you, you know what I mean? If they look down on you, let them look down on you, let them think they're better than you, let them feel like they're better than you, whatever they feel, however they think, like, you dating that guy, and then you're that guy, oh well, go about your life, you know what I mean? What one person sees as, you're that guy, another girl will see as, that guy is the best guy I've ever dated. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, be you. Don't let nobody tell you who you are. Always be a solid person. Always be a good person. Even if people think you're a bad person, even if people see you as a bad person, even if people try to project you as a bad person, always be a good person. Always just do you, and don't worry about what other people say or do to you, because that's their own projection of their own weakness.